3 questions on a What If Wednesday. What's on the rundown, my man?
What if the NCAA followed the NAIA's lead in banning biological men from women's sports?
Well, then the NCAA would have the backbone. They would have the cojones, no pun intended, to do the right thing and protect women's sports and protect Title IX, which is exactly what Jim Carr, the president of the NAIA, told Fox 4 yesterday. Of course, they are based right here in Kansas City. This announcement of the NAIA banning biological men from women's sports was announced on Monday night. And Jim Carr talked to Fox 4 and, just spoke a lot of common sense, which unfortunately is becoming far too uncommon.
We certainly did not do this with any intention of making any statement about transgender students or transgender folks who want to participate in athletics. But we believe our job was to make sure that our competition was fair and that we're similar to what Title IX does. We're protecting our female category.
Geez, remember when Title IX was like the thing? Rightfully so, by the way. Protecting women's sports, giving them the same opportunities as men. Now we've come full circle of men can basically take away women from their own sports. That's the world that some people want to live in. And the NCAA doesn't have the courage to do what the NAIA just did. Now, the NAIA, smaller schools, a lot of Christian schools, maybe that's part of the driver here, but it was a 20-0 vote during the NAIA meeting Monday here in Kansas City when they said, this isn't about, and you heard Jim Carr say it right there, this is not about transgender individuals. This is not about them, really competing in sports. It's about them competing in women's sports, right? You can compete in sports that match your biology. It's not saying you can't compete. It's saying you cannot compete against women. That's what it's saying. And I'll tell you right now, while it's not really about the numbers, people are making the argument over the last 24 hours of, there's not even that many. It doesn't matter. You don't make laws based on rules based on how often a rule or a law is broken. It's not how you run a civilized society. It's not how you run your own house with your own kids. So don't make it about something it's not. Protect women at all costs, and that's what this is about, John Anthony. What's next?
What if the Fed maintains current interest rates through the end of the year?
Well, then the Fed will be admitting that inflation is not under control, and it's not under control. We saw the numbers come out last hour. And the CPI came in at 3.5%, higher than the expected number of 3.4%. That's 36 straight months that inflation has been above 3%. Over the last 3 months alone, core CPI, that excludes food and energy, which is more volatile, has risen at a 4.6 annual rate. That's faster than any 3-month period from August of 91 to 2020. Put that into perspective. Over the last 12 months, core CPI has risen 3.5%. Faster than any 12-month period from February of 93 to 2020. This is a 4th straight month where CPI comes in hot, above the estimates. Notice how you're not hearing a lot of Bidenomics talk lately, right? Suddenly that fell by the wayside. No one's bragging about Bidenomics, are they? Saw something funny on the Babylon Bee, I think it was the other day, and it was very well done. I'm paraphrasing it here, but it basically says, Joe Biden announces student loan forgiveness to help people afford all his taxes and inflation. That's basically it. Hey, let me bail out your student loan, spend more money we don't have so you can afford Bidenomics. That's kind of what we're living through, and it's not funny, but it is bizarrely funny that the same thing that caused this, government spending, is now the answer for the same people who are living through the same things that you and I are. They're seeing the cause. They're realizing why this has happened. And somehow they think doubling down on stupid is the answer. And I don't know how many inflation reports they have to see to realize the government and government spending is not going to solve this issue. But, man, you just can't get through them sometimes, John.
All right, finally, what if Joe Biden was as confident in his executive powers with the border as he is with student loans?
Well, we wouldn't see 10 million people flooding through here the last 3 years. I mean, put that into perspective. A guy who is now making a third attempt to bail out student loans, which we just discussed, despite the Supreme Court telling him explicitly he can't, he's doing it anyway. It is beyond brazen what he's going for here. Yet the guy throws his hands up and says, I can't do anything on the border. I need a bill on my desk, despite the fact that the guy has every tool in his toolbox to, at least in a large way, alleviate the border crisis. And he's not interested in doing it because of politics. We have seen presidents for generations, but really since the southern border became an issue, 30 plus years ago, we have seen presidents use their executive powers to fix, or at least try in the short term, to solve the border crisis. This guy hasn't done a damn thing. He's just said, I don't have the authorities. Put a bill on my desk. I need a bill from Congress. But it's amazing how when it comes to spending billions of dollars unilaterally to cancel student loan debt, he doesn't think he needs Congress, even though Nancy Pelosi said 3 years ago he does. And the Supreme Court tells him he can't do it, but he does it anyway. It's almost in many ways like, even for a guy who I don't think is all that bright, regardless of whether or not you like his politics, I don't think he's a bright man. It's almost like this is just intentional. And that's in large part because I think it is. There's What If Wednesday in the books as we approach 9 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio.